All right, man. We're rocking and rolling.
All right.
Hey,
Excited.
all right, Phil. Thanks for being on, man. I guess it is Phil, right? The MMA dude.
Yep. Phil is the real name. Phil the MMA Dude. Glad to be here. Thanks so much for the invite, Aaron. Really appreciate it.
You bet, man. I listen to your podcast, and one thing that I find, I think that the one reason I like your podcast so much, and I was like, dude, I want to ask this guy to be on, is you and the Fight Geek almost rarely agree on something.
Yep. We've got a older younger brother dynamic, and that's all actually totally real. That was one of the big things when we started the show was we wanted to make sure that we were never disagreeing just to disagree. Sometimes people have asked that in the past. They haven't asked really so much recently, I think, because recently our fights have gotten even more heated, if anything, so you can't really fake that. But one thing we never, ever have done is talk beforehand about anything. In fact, I think one of the reasons the podcast works so well, Aaron, is we make sure to have as little personal contact, even via text throughout the week, as possible so that we can respond to each other's takes in real time on the show. So we don't even really talk very much besides recording the show.
That's a great idea because then it's like your fresh conversation of how you act. That's why it comes off so genuine because it's just a genuine conversation between two friends that enjoy MMA.
I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. We try to do something a little different than most of the MMA podcasts out there, and it's a huge honor that to be chosen for your show and to come out here. So thank you.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. So how did you guys get started doing this? Like what prompted the idea for you two to start the podcast in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think how long it's been now. I think we're coming up on 3 years in April. That's crazy. That's absolutely nuts. So it all started when I created my Twitter account after a really bad breakup, and this was in 2016. I just had a horrible breakup. I had moved states. I was just I didn't know anyone in this new city. I was in a horrible state of mind. So I created a Twitter. I literally gave Phil the MMA Dude zero thought on the, when I made the name, I gave it zero thought. I probably would have chosen, I don't know, maybe something else. But that's what I went with. And, as I started to gain more followers and a little bit more success, I started getting asked, hey, man, you should do a podcast. You can do a podcast. And I come from a background of sports, but also did a little bit of theater when I was younger, just before high school. So, I like that kind of thing. But I did know that I needed someone else because I can be a lot, right, Aaron? You know that I can sort of have, my hot takes, and I can get very passionate, and frankly, I think I would have been a little annoying on my own, if I'm being totally honest, bro. So I knew that I needed someone else. And so about 6 months into being on MMA Twitter, I started to, ask around, ask people if they were interested in creating a show potentially. And what I basically started doing was I started having really short, one-on-one episodes with various people around MMA Twitter, many of which, you would know today. And, almost not like a tryout. That makes me sound way more important than I am, but, like a tryout to just see how well we meshed. And, oftentimes, for example, I found that people and me, we were agreeing too often. So that was a big reason why they weren't chosen. And me and Fight Geek, legitimately, we were friends, but we also kind of weren't friends. And that actually, you know what I mean? That was the key to it, was that he was not afraid to disagree with me. Quite the opposite. He was not intimidated by, I don't know, some people seemed maybe like they wanted to agree, or they were maybe scared of disagreeing or something. And he was the total opposite. Strong personality like mine, but just that clash. And I knew that spark was there. So I'd say it took about 3 months of trying out a few people, and me and Fight Geek did at least 3 episodes that no one will ever hear, that never went anywhere because they were just practice episodes. And then we got started, I want to say, just before McGregor versus Khabib for UFC 229. So it all came together right on time.
Isn't it crazy that's been that long ago?
It's insane, bro. Like, if you would have asked me when I created it, how long is this going to go? we just finished episode 88. We just finished episode 88 yesterday. Man, I would have said 10 episodes. I'll be happy if we get through
10. Now you're 80 something in, and 3 years later you're rocking and rolling.
We used to fight so much. We used to get into a giant fight before. Actually, I don't know if I should be saying this. Maybe Fikey's going to get annoyed. But we used to fight so much before every episode even came out. I was like, man, this is not going to work. But somehow it's like the odd couple, right? We've managed to make it work, and it's been great. Honestly, couldn't ask for a better co-host. Well,
yeah, and it takes a lot. I totally agree with you, and like I like having friends that will disagree with me. Anyway, like we'll have a conversation just like you two do on the podcast. We'll have a conversation and we'll disagree. I like being able to disagree with somebody and still be friends, like still like that person. Right. And that's kind of what makes the world go around. If everybody just agrees and I'm like, well, you're just agreeing to be nice. And I don't really want that. Like I want the real person that's sitting right in front of me. So that's what makes it so great to listen to and different from other MMA shows, but then not different from the MMA shows that I listen to that find success. I've seen like when it's genuine and you listen to an MMA show where people disagree because that's really their opinion. I feel like that like just goes up, like the show rises, like your show's good. And I was like, man, I don't know. The sky's the limit for this thing. Have you guys even thought about that?
Yeah, I really appreciate the kind words, Aaron. The truth is our numbers keep going up. Perhaps not as quickly as we'd like, but the nice thing about this is that our numbers are going nothing but up. And that's meant a lot because we try to be weekly, but it's really sometimes it's just impossible. We both aren't doing this full time right now, so we've got other priorities. And the fact that we continue to increase in listeners, despite again we attempt to be weekly, but we're really more like 3.5 on average, 3.5 episodes a month, and it just means so much because I know as a podcast fan myself, I get annoyed when podcasts I like skip a week. I know that feeling completely, and so I'm always kind of cringing when that happens. But luckily, our audience has been loyal and then some because they're telling their friends.
Yeah, and you got to do what you got to do. Now, I kind of think so. The only reason I got a Twitter account, I've said this many times, is just to promote my podcast. That's it. Like I didn't even really have social media at all. I didn't have a Facebook page. I got kicked off of Facebook when I first made it twice because I posted a picture of me and a fish, and I was trying to make it like they said you got to make it look like it's a real person. So I was trying to do that, and I caught a fish, and so I just put it on there as like a picture, and they shut me down. I was like, how am I getting kicked off Facebook? I just joined. It was wild. So, but I just got the Twitter, and then I don't even know how I found you. I'm not even sure how I saw you out there, but your Twitter account is awesome. I loved it. I was like, this guy's got the best MMA Twitter account.
Well, thank you. I think it's, I think it's a love it or hate it account. People definitely, at least in my experience, thank you. First of all, thank you very much. That's extremely humbling, Aaron. I really appreciate your show and really appreciate that compliment. I think that from what I've seen, I get a lot of compliments in my inbox, which that always makes my day when I get a compliment in a DM. That seriously makes my day. I think people think I'm not looking at them or something. It's like, dude, I'm just a guy. Like, of course I'm looking at them, and they make my day. But I also see I'm also not stupid, and I'd say. I've got plenty of haters as well. So I'm a very polarizing figure, and I kind of knew I always would be, and I really embrace that. That's not something I'm afraid of. A lot of and this is no shot at any of the Twitter accounts that bigger than me, but the notable ones that are bigger than me that are not, say, the Luke Thomases and Ariel Hawanis, you can count them on like one hand, you can count. And I'm not going to say the names because I have a lot of respect for them. But the thing about them is they're either going in 100% with a comedy goal, or they are 100% coming in with fight content but no opinion because they don't want to alienate anyone. And by the way, I respect both approaches completely, especially if you're trying to build a business. But I knew that would never be me. I would always be opinionated. I would always be polarizing because of that. And I'm that's something that I'm proud of. I think that's a differentiator with me.
Oh, for sure. That's what makes it. I mean, that's what makes it enjoyable to watch your Twitter and stuff. And to tell you the truth, like I love MMA. I watch it and like it's entertaining to me. In fact, I think the second date I took my wife on was to Cowboy fighting Super Bowl weekend in Houston. And yeah, and that was it was super awesome, right? Like I love the sport. I love everything about it. So I get a lot of my MMA news from Twitter and a lot of it from your site. And I'm like, oh, he has a podcast. I didn't even know you had a podcast until later. And I checked out your bio like well later. I was like, oh, he has a podcast. Let's check it out. And I was like, oh, it's a really good podcast. And so like it went from there. All of your opinions and stuff, does it come from like, obviously you know what you're talking about when you can smell the BS from a mile away, especially doing a show like yours, like any sports show, you can smell, like if you pay attention to any sport, basketball, football, you can see it coming when the person doesn't know what they're talking about. They've never done it. Anything like that. Have you, I mean, do you train in any of these, any martial arts, or is it just something where you pure look at the history and, are just a student of the sport?
Yeah, no, so I train, and I think that's where a lot of my passion comes from. So basically, long story short, I think I hinted earlier that I had done a little acting before high school, and it's totally true. I was like this dorky theater kid, and then I came into high school, and whatever. Long story short, I was totally sick of theater. I was sick of it. But I also had tried out other sports, a lot of sports. I wasn't any good at hockey. I wasn't any good at basketball, just being honest. Those were the two I kind of went out and tried, and I sucked, frankly. And I'd done karate and gotten my purple belt, but, that doesn't mean anything. I was a little kid. So what I did do is I took up boxing, and I fell in love with boxing very quickly. It got me into phenomenal shape, but I also really loved the competition. Entered a few junior tournaments. This was all during high school, of course. And then after high school, when I went over to college, that's when I started taking up Muay Thai. And then BJJ, I started taking up actually only 3 years ago. So like around when the podcast started, I hadn't done any BJJ up until about 3 years ago, but fell in love with it, was doing it multiple times a week for the last 2 years. And then, of course, COVID hit.
Yeah, then what do you do? Like, how do you, I actually asked,
yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I had a guy that owns a studio up in Canada, and I was asking him, and he was like, dude, people are still doing it. They're just not telling, like they're doing it, meeting up at houses. People have mats and they go, like, it's hard to keep something that's such a passionate group of people and such a beneficial thing for them. You can't just take it away from them and then not do it. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's real hard. So, that's a bummer. Do you do are you able to still do the Muay Thai and practice and hit pads and stuff like that at your gym?
So no. I mean, the short answer to your question, Aaron, is no, I haven't. I live in Southern California. So without getting into politics, they're pretty strict on all that there. So my Muay Thai gym has not reopened. In fact, I'm extremely concerned that they're going to go under, with the prolonged wait. Actually it's horrible. It was like my big nightmare happened this year, because I always said, look, I'm going to look like a little cartoon on my Twitter. So I almost feel an obligation to stay in shape, because people are going to think I'm some like big fat dude, and I'm not that. So you know what happened, Aaron? You know what happened this year is I put on 25 pounds of fat. It was horrible. So I've been losing that for the past 2 months. I've still got about 10 pounds to go, but I'm getting pretty close.
How are you losing it then? Like, if you're not going to the gym, what are you taking up to lose it?
I'm losing it. I'm on this friggin' Stairmaster, my parents' house in Chicago. Then when I came back to California, I'm just literally jogging and even walking. I didn't even think walking could work, but I've started walking 5 hours a day.
Dude, I'm big into the fitness thing and CrossFit and but it doesn't matter to me. I like all sorts of different movements and everything. It's just whatever floats your boat. It's whatever works. That's why I asked the question. And but yeah, walking and hiking and any of that stuff where it gets you moving, dude, it all works.
I love that, and I love hiking. You mentioned hiking. I love hiking. That's a big reason why I live in California is actually the hiking. So I'm really but it's been a struggle. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Has it been a struggle to keep my weight? Oh yeah, especially with COVID and, you can't see your friends. I had a girlfriend for like 6 months during COVID. We broke up like maybe, I think, just when I realized how fat I was. So that was bad because then I was single and fat. But yeah, man, like it's been a crazy year and keeping, I don't know how so many people are keeping in shape, but hats off to everyone who's doing that. And it seems to be the majority of people. I don't know how you guys are doing it.
I don't know if it's the majority. I actually see it takes, so doing like competitive stuff in that world and just, I mean, on a very small level, but just it takes a lot to get motivated to do it on your own. Like we have a garage gym and I can motivate myself to go out there and work out, but it's very difficult even for me, who's someone who's like can be committed to it. It's difficult to do it on your own. Like having accountability partners and going to places and having friends that you go see because you've got busy jobs and you're working and everything's going on and you just want that hour of just, hey, I just want to be somebody else for an hour or just me for an hour without work or anything and the stress. And it motivates you. You work out with somebody and you see them suffering. So you're suffering with them. And that's easier to do. It's way better and way easier for you to get in shape. Yeah.
You nailed it completely when you said accountability, Aaron. And that's exactly what it is. And, especially I think in combat sports, I don't know maybe it's unfair for me to say it might be harder for people that did combat sports as opposed to other aerobic classes. That may not be fair, but I'm just thinking for myself personally. I can only speak for myself. I had a Muay Thai gym back when I lived in Chicago that I was very passionate about because I was very close with one of the coaches, and I had he was an actual pro MMA fighter himself. He was an extremely talented guy, and I just felt very lucky to be learning from him. And there were so many days that I didn't want to go. I mean, so many, way too many to count. But I just thought, what am I going to humiliate myself in front of coach? I'm going to tell him I'm not coming? Like, no way. I can't do that. I could never look at him again, right? And that was good for me to have that sort of, he was holding me accountable and my teammates would hold me accountable. Same thing. You'd always ask where someone was if they were gone. And that unit, that cohesive unit was so helpful. So, definitely been a bit of a struggle with COVID, but hey, I know it's been a struggle for everyone. So I can't really complain. It's been hard for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it has been. And I say that because if anybody is listening that like you, that is put on extra weight or you've been overweight and you want to get in shape.
Aaron, it's almost off now.
There you go. That's
on the record.
That's perfect. That's awesome, man. That really is awesome. But go ahead. It's like, it's one of those things where I want to spread the message as much as possible that it is difficult for anybody, whether you're in shape, whether you're out of shape, whatever it is, to get motivated on your own. It's very difficult to just suck it up and go, no, I need to walk out there. I bought all this stuff during COVID. It's in the garage. Go out there and do 10 minutes. That's all you need. 10 minutes,
Yep.
and then you're done and you've got the work. And if you keep creating that habit, it's like doing your podcast. You try your best to get once a week, but it's, you said like 3 to 4 a month, right? Sometimes 3 a month. But if you let that slack, like if you're like, oh, it's okay, I'll miss this one. Oh, it's okay, I'll miss that one. The next thing you know, you like a month later, 2 months later, then you quit the podcast.
Yep. It's a dangerous and it's a slippery slope.
Yep. So does the Fight Geek work out too? I mean, is he like do martial arts as well, or?
He does, although he doesn't do Muay Thai and BJJ. He's a boxer.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a fighting art, if you want to say, like the sweet science, right?
Yep, absolutely. People always ask who would win if we sparred. I definitely definitely a little taller than him, so I don't know that it would be entirely fair. But he's a fiery guy. So I'm sure that regardless of who would win, I have no doubt that both of us would get pretty hurt.
Yeah, and it also depends on whether you're sparring Muay Thai or whether you're doing boxing, right?
Exactly. I mean, I would assume that he would insist on boxing, So I mean, it would. I just know that regardless of who would win, the other one would make sure the other dude didn't leave looking pretty.
You take out some of that disagreement, aggression on each other.
Exactly, man. Healthiest way to do it, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was I always do this. I have a thought while we're talking, and then in the middle. Oh, I was saying boxing. You brought up boxing, and I lost interest in boxing quite a long time, like a while back. It just got too gimmicky and not real because the champs aren't fighting each other. They're all in disagreements. It was like, why do I want to watch this dude fight an up-and-comer for the belt? Like, this guy's going to smash him when this guy's sitting right over here that's obviously the contender that could beat him, and they're not fighting, right? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, it's a broken sport. Totally broken sport.
But this past probably 2 years, I guess, it's getting a little bit more entertaining. And like it seems like it is anyway. I've watched a couple Lomachenko fights, which he was fantastic to watch, but this last one was amazing because the other dude was fantastic. I even forgot his name just because Lomachenko's so popular and I'm out of boxing. Lopez. Yeah. And he was I was like, holy crap, this guy's gonna beat him. I knew that in like the third round. I go, this guy's gonna beat him. Like, he's got him. So it was. Yep. Yeah, it's just been entertaining. Like, do you guys do boxing on yours as well?
So that's a great question. We started off the show absolutely covering boxing, and we've drifted away from it. Honestly, we cover the biggest fights. We cover the ones that are really, I'll look at my timeline on Twitter, kind of see, if people are really excited about a big boxing match. For example, we covered both of Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fights. We covered those, of course. We covered the Anthony Joshua, the Lomachenko stuff. But in general, I'd say we're 95% mixed martial arts.
Well, I guess it's pretty tough. I mean, like me, I'm more entertained by the MMA, which I feel like the majority of people are going that direction because it is. I mean, say what you want to about Dana White and all this stuff. He's a knucklehead. But you know what they do? They get the best people to fight each other. And that is what everybody wants. They want to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what kind of got me into MMA, over boxing. You mentioned that boxing, never has the best fight the best. Obviously that's completely true. And, I was brought up watching boxing with my dad. That's what had me go out, my freshman year of high school and try out boxing because I'd been watching with my dad for a bunch of years. But once I started watching MMA, I mean, man, it's real hard to go back to watching boxing. And the other reason I should mention real quick that we don't go into boxing as much on the show is, honestly speaking, we just don't feel nearly as qualified to talk about it. We both feel that we know mixed. I certainly feel that I know mixed martial arts. I know mixed martial arts, far, far, far better than I do boxing. There's still things in boxing, technical things that I don't always see or understand. So I don't always feel 100% confident even speaking about it. So that's really why we stick to MMA.
So do you go back and do you just like watch fights? Is that how you research your stuff, or do you like read articles? And I mean, what goes into preparation for just learning? I mean, it's one thing to do it and to understand it, but then it's another thing to know what you're talking about as well when you put all this stuff together.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you mean like in terms of like preparing for like picking fights for like an upcoming card for an episode?
Yeah, or just even talking about like the matchups and how one fighter fares against another fighter, and like the whole situation with the UFC dropping fighters and knowing how good that fighter actually is, whether they should or shouldn't be dropped, and whether that was a bad decision. I mean, a lot of the backgrounds of a lot of the people that are fighting is what I'm saying. Like, all encompassing stuff. Like, So I was wondering if you just go back and watch these guys fight history, or if you read articles, or if you just pay attention as life is going, like you just watch them as they're fighting.
Yeah. So, the short answer is I live, breathe, and eat mixed martial arts. Again, it's not what I do professionally. It's not what I do for my day job, but it's my passion outside of that. So, I've been watching it for many, many years. So I think that helps a lot. I'm trying to think of exactly. I could tell you the promotion, World Extreme Cage Fighting. That probably doesn't mean anything to you. It's not really well known. It no longer exists, and the UFC eventually bought it. But I grew up. That's how I was introduced to MMA. I didn't start watching the UFC. That's not how I got started. I got started watching on cable as I believe, a freshman in high school. Around the time I started boxing, I just had it on cable, and they had this thing WEC. I started watching it. They had this guy named Uriah Faber on, and I loved him. He was the California Kid, and I just started following all those guys. And as soon as the UFC, went and bought them, I came with, and really been a huge diehard MMA fan. Really since, I want to say pretty much since I first started watching it, in the WEC days. And that was at least, 14 years ago, probably more. Yeah, I'm not good. More than 14 years ago.
Man, I'm 40 years old, and I've loved the boxing and that sort of stuff, like from a very young age. And so I remember renting Blockbuster Video. I want to say it was UFC 4. I don't know which one it was. They had it there. It was very early on. Like, you get the Gracies, you got I forgot the big dude's name, he was a big dude that wore a gi, like a really overweight dude fighting like little guys. Vitor Belfort was in them. I remember that. We used to rent the, I think it's King of the Cage as well. Like, all of those things we used to rent them. So yeah, I know exactly what the WC.
Okay. Then yeah. I came off like a condescending.
No, not at all, man. Because I'm sure a lot of people don't have any clue what those things. Like, I'm sure a lot of people don't know what those things are. That's what I'm saying. Like, you really had to, at that point in time, you really had to pay attention to the sport or be a fan of it, because it was such a niche thing, and that wasn't really like just promoted everywhere. You had to like know it.
Oh yeah, I remember it. Just I literally had. I think I was like, it'd be like I was watching Cops, just on some channel, and then boom, it just showed up. I mean, I literally stumbled on it.
And you're like, oh, this thing's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, this is like boxing, but cooler. Whoa.
Well, now, have you guys been to any events that like you talk about? Have you set something up where like, hey, we're gonna go to these events? Because the way it seems like this whole podcast thing is going to me, and just from the outside looking in, is that the future of it, and I don't know if you've ever thought about it or what, but is being part of that press system for, these fights, like going to the actual locations and reporting on them, like asking questions and then coming back so you can say it on your podcast and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been, we have talked about going to events together in the past. It never quite worked out. We saw UFC 230 together at his place in Arizona, because I was visiting Arizona for work, and so that was very convenient. But that was the only event that we've actually seen together. We've spoken about meeting up for events, but Fight Geek's married. I'm single. I'm in my early 30s. I'm 32. Not early. I don't know if that's still early 30s. Don't get me started. I'm going to get depressed. I don't know. So he's married. He's got that whole thing. But, I'm very lucky in that I've been able to forge strong relationships with a lot of fighters, some of them the best in the world, some, at the top of the divisions, through my Twitter account. So just for example, I had an exclusive one-on-one interview with the #1 welterweight contender a few months ago, Gilbert Burns. And he's a good friend of mine to this day. And, that was sort of when I felt like, okay, now I've made it. Like now, or at least I've made it for me. You know what I mean? Like, I never imagined in a million years that I could possibly get the attention of the #1 contender to give me a one-on-one 30-minute interview, and I got it. So that's what's happened. But yeah, I totally hear you about going out to the shows, sort of interviewing fighters there. That's definitely something that I could get into. It's all a little complicated for me, Aaron, because on the one hand, I don't really consider myself a member of the MMA media necessarily. I consider myself more of an opinion persona. Although it's a gray area, and it's getting grayer when I'm having interviews with Gilbert Burns and stuff. It's getting grayer and grayer. But just I'm speaking generally. I've always thought, first of all, I know there's a lot of fighters who like me. I know there's a lot of fighters who hate me because I didn't say anything nice about them, 2 years ago, and I don't even remember that. So and again, that's just who I am. That's how I've gone about this whole thing is just saying what's on my mind, saying what I think, not always trying to keep everyone happy, just sort of telling the truth. And, so I haven't, you bring up a good point. I guess I haven't given it as much thought, going to the events and interviewing the fighters. I haven't given it as much thought as maybe I should be.
Well, I'm just speaking as a fan outside. This is just me. And I mean, you do the podcast. That's your world over there. So this is just like, if it's nothing, then just take it as that, because I know nothing about it. But I think I would enjoy you interviewing somebody or hearing an interview like the one with Gilbert Burns, but also with the people that you don't necessarily get along with, or that you said like your honest opinion about them, because then you're going to have a real conversation with the fighter or with somebody who disagrees with them, which they don't always have that in their camps and surrounding them. Like, you don't always see that sort of thing where if you're willing to, hey, yeah, let's just go ahead and have a talk. Like, I have this opinion, but change my mind.
I would love nothing more. Just for the record, I would love nothing more than your idea. I would love it. I'll tell you a secret about, or maybe you know this already, but I don't know. Not everyone knows this. MMA fighters are some of the most sensitive people I've ever met. You wouldn't think so, right? You would not think so. You'd think, I'm a cage fighter. I don't give a shit what some little dweeb on it, some little dweeb cartoon MMA. Oh, he calls himself the MMA dude. Who cares what he thinks? That's what I would assume that they would think. But people, man, they care and they don't forget. So I think I would have trouble just getting them to agree to the talk in some cases. But maybe that's, now I'm thinking out loud as I say that. Maybe I'm just making excuses. Maybe I should go and try to hound them. I just know that I can't get too aggressive, or if these dudes lay me out, I'm probably not getting up, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a very small few that would lay somebody out that didn't care. And I think the Diaz brothers are two of them. So,
well, luckily I love the Diaz brothers. They've got no reason to be mad at me. So, hey, Nick or Nate, come on the Split Decision podcast.
That's perfect. Yeah, that was my next question. Do you guys ever interview? I haven't gone back through enough, or like I've gone back through some. I just haven't noticed any where you've done actual interviews on your podcast together, or like individuals with the different fighters like that. Is that something that you guys are going to pursue in the future too, or is it just going to be just mainly you two talking about the fights?
Yeah, so we've done 3 out of 88 episodes. So not too many. We've done 3. The first one was Gary Tonin from One Championship. He's a little bit better known in the East, where he's a top contender. He's also one of the best BJJ practitioners in the world. So we interviewed Gary Tonin first. It was a great experience. Gary was great. We've had nothing but great experiences. The second one was Juan Adams. Great guy. Unfortunately, he got cut from the UFC, but we're still in touch. And then that third one was the big one, and that was the most recent. That was about a little less than 2 months ago, and that was Gilbert Burns, who's fighting Kamaru Usman for the belt early next year. And the Gilbert Burns episode got us a ton of new subscribers. We got a ton of listens. But the interesting thing is that we've just kind of come to realize, or at least notice, that when you I need to be careful about how I word this for sure. If you don't have like a top 5 fighter in the UFC, like top 5 in their division on the show, be shocked how many people don't care. And all I mean by that is we can back it up with numbers. I mean, our episodes would I want to make sure this is 100% true. It would only dip. The only time we've seen it dip week over week, besides maybe one or two random weeks, I don't know, was the guest episodes. People wanted to hear us debating more. If that sounds shocking to you, it was shocking to me. Trust me. I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I think that people are very interested if it's a top 5 fighter in a division. Otherwise, I think a lot of them skip over, which is unfortunate, by the way. But we didn't see the ratings that we wanted to, the ratings bump. So that's really been the primary reason we haven't done it more.
Well, and I can kind of see that where it wouldn't bump it because, I mean, you just look at the top guys right now, like who most of the top guys that you would want to like. So Ben Askren, awesome to have on your show, automatic downloads because he's a personality, right? Like he's made a character for himself. He's funny. He one of the best at trash talking, like and making it funny. And like,
Sure.
So he's entertaining. Like he's a super entertaining guy that's also a fighter and a really good one. And then you have like, look at George Masvidal before he started wearing the robes and the chains and doing the Scarface thing. Well, who paid attention to George Masvidal? Nobody. Same thing. Like go down the line of all these people, and those guys make the other guys like Kamaru Usman and and Colby. Like Colby makes him famous. Like his attitude makes people like Kamaru Usman. Without him, Kamaru's just he's a world champ, but nobody's going to download a podcast to listen to him talk. But now there's this feud, right? There's these enemies or these personalities that are going after these guys. And so now they want to hear what this guy has to respond to these people. So I can see where you would have to really get the personalities on your show to get the downloads.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. You nailed it. So we're absolutely, still interested in that. Again, I'm interested in interviewing any fighters in the UFC, and sometimes I've developed relationships with so many of them that I have. I was going to say I have a bunch of private interviews. Sounds really corny and stupid, but it's true that there's many of them that luckily I've been around for long enough now on Twitter and with the podcast that I at least have a reputation for, at least being, I'd like to think, a half decent guy, so people can, fighters know that they can tell me things in confidence and that I won't say breaking news, blah, 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 if they don't want me to.
That's a rarity, man. That is a big rarity in 2020 to be able to do that.
Yeah, trust is a hard thing to earn, and it's easy to lose. So that's one thing I've always wanted to really respect is especially with the fighters, just having them know that they can come to me and they can come to me with information they want me to drop. They can come to me with information they don't want me to drop. And I think that's led to more of them coming and seeking me out, which has been great.
That is so cool. And see, in my mind, I love like these stories, like listen, you're building something from scratch off of a Twitter account that, you got after a breakup, and it's just working out, and you build momentum. And in my mind, I'm just like, I'm excited for you. I'm like, I want to see you succeed. That's why I was like, maybe one day you're going to see like Phil the MMA Dude, just like the Schmo, where he's going and talking to people, but then doing his own thing, still doing his podcast and getting all this information and just making a full-time living out of doing what you love to do, is talk about fighting.
Yeah. Shout out to the Schmo. He's a polarizing guy too. I'm a fan of his, and I'll be the first one to admit I am so jealous of him and what he did. Now we're a little bit different, of course, in how we approach things for sure. He's a little bit more of a, he's his character, and I don't really have a character. I'm kind of just being myself, even though that's a little bit of like a jerk or something. I don't know. So much respect to him. He really went out and just kind of made his thing happen. I want to know where he got all that money to start it all. Man, what he did a great job. So hats off to the schmo.
Oh no, he's awesome. He's super entertaining. Like the thing that he has put together is awesome, which is why I respect what you guys are doing, because you're not copying the schmo, and you're not copying Luke Thomas, and you're not copying Joe Rogan, and you're not copying all these different shows, Brendan Schaub, all of them. You're not copying what they're doing. You guys are you're staying in what, like, you created something that works for you and the Fight Geek together. Like, this is you. It's authentic. I haven't heard another show that's even similar to the way you guys do it.
Wow. That means a lot. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. It's been fun. Again, we keep growing. I think that it's certainly, I'll say this, when we started the show 3 years ago, you could count the amount of amateur podcasts from people on MMA Twitter on two hands, for sure. There were like 8 of them, and most of them weren't good. Like a few were very good, but most were not. And now I'd say, if you ask me how many MMA podcasts are there from these Twitter accounts today, I mean, gosh, it's got to be at least 500, probably more. So it's very, very, very highly saturated market. And excuse me, I think that's our biggest struggle. But again, not too much to complain about. Our numbers keep going up, and that's just been really humbling and shocking to me, and great.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, maybe there are some people that want to go listen to some dude that, like, if you've ever been to a pay-per-view at a bar or something, and you hear the guys at the tables next to you, you're like, oh my gosh, dude, you're not a fighter, like, you're not a fighter. You have no idea. This is such a weird thing to listen to what you're saying right now. I'm not a fighter, and I'm not saying those things, and I can tell that it's dumb. It's like annoying. Right. And so I'm sure there's I'm not saying millions. That's a complete exaggeration, but there's a lot of like MMA podcasts where there's that guy that's at the bar just saying nonsense.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. There's definitely some podcasts that have come up in the last 3 years from, that are amateur like us, amateur beginnings, and I'm like, oh damn, all right, I gotta watch myself. These guys are for real. And me and Fight Geek will even have like conversations about it and stuff. So we definitely keep track of everything. I try to listen to as much as I can, just because I feel like, if we're not getting better, we're getting worse. I'm a big believer in that saying, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So, just looking to constantly improve. If you were to take like the first or the second episode of the Split Decision podcast, Aaron, I bet you would be very unimpressed, if I'm being honest. You'd be like, what is this? What is this crap? This isn't very good at all. This sounds like crap. That's my honest opinion, and I think it's crap. I'm not proud of the first few episodes. I'm really not. But you know what? We had to start there to get where we are, and I think would like to think, I'm trying to say this now, I would like to think that the show has improved very dramatically since.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as anything that we do. Like in Muay Thai, if you walk in, you suck when you go in there. Like you suck bad. I mean, but you have to this is one thing I'm a huge believer in, and you have to test whatever you're going to say, whatever you're going to do. This is the one reason I hate censorship on any sort of platform anywhere. And that is because if you put something out there, it'll be proven whether it's true or not and how good it is when it's put out there and left alone to get criticized. Right. So when you put yourself out there on a podcast, I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, I'll do a podcast and it's awesome. But as soon as you hit record, like your opinion about that fighter, what you said is on the internet. And somebody has it forever. Like that is something that you've put down there, and they can listen to that. They can criticize you on it. They can make fun of you. But if you keep going and you keep improving, where other people would stop making those episodes, they'd be like, dude, it's so bad. I'm going to stop making the episode. But you keep going, and then somebody finds it at episode 20. And they're like, oh, I like this. Somebody finds it at episode 60, and they're like, this is a sweet show. And you know what I mean? And it just keeps growing. Better and better like that. You have to have those reps in. Otherwise, everybody starts like that. Nobody flips the switch plugs it in, hits record for the first time ever, and goes, they're just like the top podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm not even, and I, I am talking about, like that improving our me and Fight Geek's chemistry from episode to episode. That improved. But what's even crazier is, our format has changed so much. People probably wouldn't even recognize the show in the first few episodes because we used to go down like every single fight on the card from last week and just talk about every fight. And it took us a very embarrassingly long amount of time, I'm not even going to say, before we were like, no one cares. Why are we don't care. They definitely don't care. Why are we doing this? And so we just slashed that, and then we used to take, 20 minutes for every fight pick. And we just, we slashed that to 4 minutes. And now it's mostly bigger subjects. And, usually just between us, usually I'll choose subjects that I generally have a slight feeling Fight Geek may disagree on, But look, I'm not always right. Sometimes, he surprises me all the time. Sometimes he'll be like, yeah, I think blah, blah. And I'll be like, oh, okay, we agree. And it can be a little, that's where I think, if there's ever any anxiety, it's when we agree a lot on an episode, which does happen every once in a while where we have these episodes where we just agree a lot. But man, we just know, and you spoke to this earlier, how, if we had ever did anything like that, first of all, I just hate the idea of it morally because that's fake bullshit. But second of all, people would tell in 1 second. They'd be able to pick it up immediately if someone wasn't being legitimate with, what they thought was going to happen in a fight or what their opinion was about a certain champ. So, we take those episodes where that means every once in a while we're going to have an agreeable episode. But, I think that it's far better than, the other option.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I actually had this question on my, it's just something I thought about after listening to several episodes of your podcast. I was like, I wonder if the MMA dude has ever convinced the Fight Geek to change his mind once.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. On air. I think I've done it on air like, okay, 3 times in 88 episodes, so not that many, but I think he's gotten me to change mine even a few times. Yeah. We, for the most part, we're both very strong-headed guys who don't change, but I think that we both have a few W's of even on air convincing the other.
Yeah, it's just something that popped in my mind because I listened to him like, you're like, come on. And he's like, no way. And you're like, no, for real. You think that? And then it goes back and forth and then it ends like, okay, we're moving on to the next subject. Because, I was like, I wonder if they've ever made each other change their minds.
We totally have. I'm trying to think of I feel like we've done it in definitely in 2020, I got him to change his mind on an episode. Man, I wish I could tell you which ones, so you could check it out. But definitely in 2020, we had one where I got him to change his mind. I feel like it happened like 3 months ago. So maybe like 12 episodes back. So we're at 88. So I don't know, 75, 76. But anyways, it's rare, but it's happened. It's
super fun. Like to think about it, it's really funny just because that has to be a really compelling argument with two like alphas that have done their research and know their stuff, what they're talking about with their opinions. That it has to be very rare that you get the other one to change their mind when you guys are so knowledgeable on the subjects.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of that, all of the passion, all of the, maybe you even hear a little bit of like legitimate anger from, I think, both of us sometimes. That's all 100% real. People sometimes like, yo, man, like, how do you guys, keep this all up without pissing each other off? And I'm like, no, we piss each other off very seriously. Like, it's gotten bad enough before where we've gotten into like outrageous fights where I'm like, is this show going to last 20 episodes? That's why I said how shocked I am we're at 88. But we absolutely piss each other off. We've just kind of learned that that's what works for us.
So you said you found them on Twitter? Like you guys met on Twitter? Is that where you met?
On Twitter.
Yeah. And when you guys got done with the episode, did you both talk afterward and go like after the practice episodes, you were like, dude, this is fun.
You know what? No. Because I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was fun for him at first, because I think that he's a very strong-headed guy, but he's also a very polite guy, probably more polite than I am. I think I'm a little bit more confrontational just in my real life. If someone's like being an asshole and cutting me in line, I'm gonna let them know, especially if it's like an asshole, right? If it's like a little old lady, obviously. But Fight Geek's different. He's a little bit more, reserved, and he wants to be polite, and so it took. I don't think he had fun for a long time. He started, I had to kind of, once he started, I kind of had to explain, like, yo, don't take this personally. Like, we're gonna go at it, and it's gonna be real, but this is what gets us good listens, good ratings. And I think he didn't like it at first, but if anything, he probably deserves then more credit than me, because he came in without knowing what the deal was. He didn't know that he was going to be in this argument. He didn't know I was looking for an argument. I didn't tell him that, right? And so he maybe deserves more credit than me for adapting and becoming, I said I couldn't ask for a better co-host. I knew what it was going to be. He didn't know what it was going to be. And I think it took him a while to learn to enjoy the fight.
Dude, that's such an awesome story that I would have figured that both of you were having fun. It does sound like you're both having fun. So I kind of would have figured that he would be. But that's hilarious that he's that's hilarious that neither one of you were like, or that he wasn't at least like, dude, this is a lot of fun. I want to keep doing this. And he just kept doing it anyway.
You're right. No, I mean, I've often asked him why and that's a great question. I still, to this day, Aaron, I'm not entirely sure why he kept doing it after that first episode before we were an official team. And we've since gone on to, by the way, form our own company together, so that we are, it's not something where I own the show and I can fire Fight Geek or Fight Geek can fire me. We own the show 50-50. It was how I insisted, it was something I wanted done. I mean, obviously, I think it'd be awkward to do it any other way with a co-host where where you're arguing and you want to be honest with each other all the time. But yeah, I mean, when he first, I don't know why he kept doing it at first, because I was just some weirdo from the internet.
That's awesome that you started the podcast and then bring him on later, and then you split it 50-50. That takes a lot. That shows a lot of passionate to and the type of person you are. So you're saying he's polite, but obviously you guys have a good relationship, and that's the best way to do business. You're cutting it 50-50. If this thing does something, if it grows, if it gets bigger, the sponsors come on, money comes in, it's all ours, split down the middle. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always working as a team. And again, we've had, I wouldn't know where to start when I say we've had our disagreements. I wouldn't know where to start. Not even with, and not even just MMA. We have a ton of personal differences, in almost every aspect of life, actually. We are almost, we have a ton of differences. So it's pretty cool that, at least for me, it's pretty cool that I've been able to keep him as such a close friend with us being so different. Well,
you know what? The world needs more of that. Not in MMA. You said something very valuable right there to everybody in the world. If anybody's listening, just please take this. If you're on Twitter and you're or social media and you scream at people because they disagree with you, just know they're the same as you behind the screen talking. And these two dudes that don't agree with anything have a podcast together they split 50-50 with and love doing it. And that's super important to be able to do. It's a rare skill nowadays to be able to do what you and the Fight Geek are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Aaron. Coming from you especially, that really means a ton, because I know that that you know what you're doing. So that holds a lot of weight. Thank you, sir.
No problem. I'm the worst at taking compliments, and like I love giving them. So that's a tough one for me. I'm like, oh, thanks. What else do I say?
I'll take as many as you want. Thank you.
Oh man. Well, I guess this has been a fun conversation, dude. I have really enjoyed talking to you. Like it's every bit. It's fun, man. It's fun. It's as fun as like listening to your podcast, dude. I love it. Where can
get some time? I had a blast, bro.
Oh, thanks. Let everybody know where they can find your podcast, the name of it, all that stuff, and anything else that you want to shout out for the thing. Let everybody know what you got going on.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So guys, I co-host a podcast. It's called The Split Decision Podcast. That's 4 words. The Split Decision Podcast. We are available on iTunes. We're available on Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Every platform where you get your podcasts, we're there. But again, just wanted to clarify that it is 4 words, The Split Decision Podcast, because I think there's another that tried to copy us. And anyways, 4 words. And that's us. So you can find us, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. I already said all that. But thanks again, Aaron, for the time. I had a blast, man. I really did. This is a great show you've got, and let's do it again sometime, man.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I would love it. Maybe if I want to do an MMA segment on it for some big fight, you can come on. Like that would be a blast. You and the Fight Geek can come on. I don't care. It would be an honor for me to do that. That would be awesome.
Sweet. All right, man. Well, thank you again for your time. I had a great one.
Cool. Thanks, man.